Hi friends, today I'm going to go over one of my favorite characters in Lost Ark and show you my PvE setup that I like to use for Chaos Dungeons, for raids, and also go over some of the stats and engravings that you'll want to know about. So let's get straight into the builds for my Scrapper. So the first thing to know about this class is the two class engravings. These are Shock and Taijutsu. Now, Shock is the engraving that I chose to go down, and this basically increases the damage of your green skills by up to 20% at level 3, and also gives you Shock regeneration, which you wouldn't normally have, because you'd normally charge up your green resource by using yellow skills. So it's a slower and high burst damage build. Taijutsu, on the other hand, is a very quick build, which is focused on buffing your yellow skills that have much lower cooldowns. They do lower damage, but it's about the sustained damage you get from it rather than big numbers. Now for the Scrapper, both class engravings are viable, so it comes down to personal preference. And the Chaos Dungeon build I'm about to show you is for a Shock Scrapper because the AoEs are much better than a Taijutsu Scrapper. Starting with the Chaos Dungeon build, the first skill we have is Charging Blow. This skill I generally only put 4 points into and use the ready attack one there. If you were to go further, that's what I would use, and this is basically used as a bit of mobility and also a damage buff. Next up, we have Fierce Tiger Strike, and normally I only put 4 points into this for amplified damage. It's just a filler skill to be able to generate you some gauge and to be able to increase damage on bosses. Next up is Earthquake Chain. This is a nice AoE with good damage, so definitely max this one out. Next up is Roundup Sweep. This has a chance to reset on critical hit. It does okay damage, and if you've got lots of green energy, you can spam it, but this is a skill I generally tend to use after I've used my other bigger AoE green skills. Then we have True Rising Fist. This is a really high damage skill with quite a large area. You definitely want to put all your skill points into this one and use it on cooldown. Then we have Supernova, one of our highest damage skills. This is a really good one to use and max out as well. Pulls enemies in and does really good damage, so definitely max this one out. Then Chain Destruction Fist. This is our best AoE skill, and you definitely want to be pulling big packs of monsters together, jumping in the middle of them, and then using this one. Tons of damage, massive AoE, it's fantastic. Last of our normal skills is Death Rattle. This is a really high damage skill that scales off how much green energy you have, because the way we built it with Shock Explosion, then it takes up all of your remaining green energy, and it's really good for taking out the bosses. And on a final note, with your Awakening, it really doesn't matter which one you use, it just comes down to personal preference. They're both fantastic, so just choose which one you like. So here's the full build up on screen for you now. Remember to focus on your green skills first if you don't have the skill points for everything here, and ignore Dragon's Descent. So you can pause the video and sort out your skills, and remember, if you like the video so far, give it a like and consider subscribing. I'll also bring up for you now a Taijutsu build in case you want to go down that route, so this is what I'd recommend for that. If, however, you are fresh level 50, then this is a really good build to get you started doing Chaos Dungeons early, with no engravings. Now for our Shock Raid build, now our first skill we have is Charging Blow. This skill is really good mobility for getting in and out. Not much damage, but it does give you a self buff of 10% attack power. So use this before you use your big damage skills like Death Rattle. Next up, we have Fierce Tiger Strike, RW. This is a very quick hit that does a debuff, increasing the damage taken by 6%, and is also great at generating green bar energy resource. Next up, we have Crushing Smite. This is a combo skill, which is also gives the same debuff as your Fierce Tiger Strike. And no, they don't stack, so you want to make sure to use them independently of each other. But again, it's another skill that's good at generating green resource. The next skill we have is our Roundup Sweep. This is a good damage skill with good range. It's very fast, it hits twice, and is also your counter skill. In my opinion, it's one of the best counter skills in the game. The fact that it hits twice and actually has good range and a chance to reset on critical makes it an incredibly good and effective counter skill. Next up on our A is True Rising Fist, a really good skill that hits a couple times, and it also has back attack, and you can also use it to get into position if you need to, so definitely one of our heavy hitters. On our S, we have Supernova. This has good range and it hits like an absolute truck. It's got back attack, so again, you want to position yourself accordingly. But if you do get a crit from behind, you can see there I hit for 3.4 million. It's absolutely massive damage. Another skill that hits like a truck is our Chain Destruction Fist. This does huge damage, has back attack again, but just be careful of the fact that it locks you into position. Remember though, you can always dash to end it early. The last skill we have is Death Rattle. This is an incredibly hard hitting skill, but it's also a green energy dump. So the more green energy you have, the more damage it does. But it's definitely the kind of skill that you want to buff yourself, debuff the boss, and then use. And if you crit, it hits for crazy damage. But it's also another back attack skill, so remember, positioning is important. And there's the full build for you now. And here's an example of a Taijutsu build. Take Death Sentence if you want a lot more damage, Sweeping Strike if you want the counter, and Judgment for a debuff. With the stats, with a Shock Scrapper, you want to go critical and speciality, putting more into speciality like I have on my build here. So speciality increases the damage of your shock skills, which is the most important thing here. Your key gain increases as well, and also your awakening skill does more damage. So this is to do with your green skills, and then critical obviously increases your critical chance. So this is where we differ from a Taijutsu build, where you would go crit and agility increases attack speed, movement speed, and cooldown reduction. So going really high agility on a Taijutsu build is what makes it a really quick character. Moving over to engravings, we've got the shock regen obviously for this. Then I've chosen to go sharp blunt, which I think is pretty mandatory, grudge as well. And then I've chosen to go Cursed Doll for even more damage. So Sharp Blunt, the critical damage increased by 50%. However, with some probability that all attacks can do 20% less damage. Grudge is a flat 20% more damage to regular and raid bosses, but at the same time you take 20% more damage from their attacks. And then Cursed Doll, the hero attack power is increased by 16%, but you basically have 25% less healing efficiency. So that's what I've chosen to go through. Some of the other honorable mentions would be Spirit Absorption here, which you could replace with Cursed Doll. This one will give you extra movement speed and attack speed, and just make your life a little bit easier. Backstab Master, this one doesn't have any drawbacks, it's just the fact that you have to be landing your back attacks constantly, so if you're good at doing that, this is a very, very good engraving. And then we have Adrenaline. When using skills, except for maneuvers and basic attacks, your attack power is increased by 1% for 6 seconds, and that stacks up to 6 times. But then once you've got it at maximum stacks, at level 3, the critical strike chance is increased by 15%. And this is an example of a very well built set of engravings for a Taijutsu Scrapper. Alright guys, I got one more treat for you for the end of this video now then. I've got some footage of my Shock Scrapper doing an endgame tier 6 Guardian raid called Descaluda, and then after this I've got some highlights as well of the exact same raid but from a Taijutsu Scrapper. So big shout out to Shina for actually allowing us to use footage here. I really appreciate you, so thank you so much. And the last of the shout outs here, remember I do stream right here on the YouTube channel as well as on Twitch, and you can catch me at twitch.tv/BentleyGamingTV. And we've also got the incredible Discord server with over 1,200 members now, and we've also got the guild that we're creating for launch. So if you're interested for any of that, then hit up the link in the description. And if you like the format of this video, let me know, or if there's anything you'd like to see different in the next one, let me know down in the comments below, as well as the next class you would like to see. Until next one guys, I hope you at least learned something, and I also hope you have a very nice day. Cheers now.